Hey, and welcome to the Hoop Southbound Show. My name is David.
Hey guys, it's Maddie.
And today we're going to skip right ahead and do our first ad read because we got a ton to talk about today in our recruiting roundup episode. So let's knock this first ad read out. They say everything's bigger in Texas, and after trying Old Humble Distilling Boomtown Bourbon, I have to agree. It's got Texas-sized quality and Texas-sized flavor that comes only from south of the Red River. This whiskey is a Texas original. Old Humble starts by harvesting their own rain, then filtering it 3 different ways. This means the water is completely free of heavy minerals, chemicals, and impurities of any kind. They use a somewhat traditional tri-grain mash bill, but go heavy on the corn and a little light on the rye. It's aged to perfection in a 5-gallon barrel. Want to give it a try? Well, right now, if you're a Variety Sports listener, you don't have to travel to the Lone Star State to grab a bottle. Just head over to their website and use promo code Variety Sports to get free shipping on your next order. And while you're there, don't forget to check out their other whiskeys like Special Reserve and Double Oak Rye. Old Whiskey was started with one goal in mind: make the best damn whiskey, period. So try it out for your next tailgate or game day party, because Old Humble is the official whiskey of campfires, cookouts, good stories, and great friends. Must be 21 to enjoy, and as always, please drink responsibly. Cue the intro music, and let's get into it.
Tonight, and the Kentucky coronation. And Angel Reese knows the ring is coming. Three-pointer on the way, no good. Pulls with the dunk at the buzzer. It goes, and Arkansas wins. The Tennessee Volunteers are going to the Sweet 16. Florida takes its place in history. Back to back and unforgettable.
Calm down, John. Get him away. He's got it. Oh, he's out of here. What do I say?
So one of the benefits of it being summertime and everything else is that, we get to talk about a variety of different topics because there's not basketball on the menu right now across basketball, but we do get an opportunity to talk about recruiting. And if you've looked at our Twitter lately, it's kind of a mess, is it not, Maddie?
It kind of is. It's a little mix up of everything and anything, and you don't know who's going where or what's happening, really. It's kind of like a fun game of guess who right now.
It's a fun game of retweet Joe Tippin and a bunch of other guys trying to piece together the recruiting world and everything else. Adam Finkelstein gives this, and then somebody else is saying that this guy is going to a visit. And if you just follow our Twitter page, you're probably lost and have no idea where every recruit stands with every different school in the SEC. So today we thought we would put this episode together a little bit differently than our normal show. And we are going to come together and we're going to talk about these different recruits, some of the ones that we've highlighted who are less committed, or ones who've got some visits coming up, and they're in the top 100 in their recruiting ranks. So, Maddie, I think it's time to put our recruiting hats on here, and let's do a little roundup. And yes, I did make an intro video for the recruiting roundup as well. Yeah, so we can see the cowboy hats. We're ready to do a little roundup here, and we're going to start off today talking about Dylan Harper. Now, he's considering one SEC school right now, and that's Auburn. You're going to hear Auburn a lot in this conversation. A lot of it has to do with their class or with their current roster having so many seniors on it. They're going to have a lot of pieces probably to fill going into the next year. For Dylan Harper, he's considered the number 1 overall the number 1 prospect in the 2024 class by 24/7 Sports. He's a combo guard, 6'5", 180 pounds. Maddie, what are some of your thoughts on Dylan Harper?
I mean, after watching some highlights, this kid can ball, like really going into it. Big fan of the fact that he's a lefty. I'm a lefty. You don't see very many, as many, I feel like, today in basketball. But I feel like he is the perfect build for a combo guard, at 6'4". He is kind of on the smaller side, but like I said, based on some of the videos that I watched of him as we were getting this together, I think he has got a very bright future ahead of him. But I feel like Auburn's got to watch their back, because I did check over a Rivals forecast that has him at a 63% chance of going to Rutgers.
Yeah, Rutgers is doing a lot out there in the great world of recruiting. I know they've got some high talented prospects that are interested in them, and I think they've even got one commit already in the top 20. But yeah, well, you watch Dylan Harper, there's nothing over physically stellar or mind-blowing about him physically, but he's been remarked for his ability as a facilitator, a scorer, and how he balances both those roles really well on a basketball court. And aside from his scoring and playmaking, he also impacts the game as a positional rebounder or versatile defender. The kid is a first-round draft talent, according to a lot of scouts, when it's going to become for draft time. Now, you were talking about Auburn and them having to watch out. I do think that he would be a really good fit for Auburn. He's Aiden Holloway may likely be a one and done player. So, you're at least going to have one guard spot opening up on that Auburn roster if things go as projected right now. I do think that Aiden Holloway is looked at right now somewhere in the late first round by a lot of mock drafts. And then you also have 7 seniors on this current Auburn team. So, that there's going to be some spots opening up on this roster. And it also includes, I can't remember the name right now who it is, but there is one player on that roster who's going to be running out of his eligibility. So, you got 2 potential spots that are going to be opening, and one of those is definitely going to be a guard more than likely. So Dylan Harper makes a lot of sense here. It's a really good fit. And while we're talking about that, he may also have some competition coming from Tahad Pettiford, who's a guard who's already coming to Auburn. But obviously Harper is A, the higher ranked recruit, and B, since he's a combo guard, Harper can play on the 2 spot while Pettiford is on the floor as the 1. So that's one of the takes that I have currently on thoughts of him potentially coming to Auburn.
Yeah, that was kind of my thought. As an Arkansas fan, my mind obviously goes to Devo Davis, who can play point, who can play the 2. When you have a smaller guard who's pretty feisty on defense, I feel like you can pretty much throw him anywhere out there on the floor, and he's going to fit well. He's going to adapt, and he's going to adjust.
He's a fun prospect to keep an eye on, and I know he's one that definitely Auburn fans want to get if it's possible. But right now, he has not taken a visit to Auburn, but he hasn't really visited a lot of the other top schools, one of them being Kansas. So I won't be surprised if he puts those trips together here sometime soon. Let's move on to the guy with probably the best name in this recruiting class, and that's Boogie Fland. Boogie's got 2 SEC schools that he's showing interest in, according to 24/7 Sports, and that's Kentucky and Alabama. Fland is the number 14 player nationally. He's the number 2 combo guard in this class. He has good handles. He's able to shoot the ball from each and every level on the court. He has fantastic court vision. He plays well on and off the ball on defense. Really solid all-around basketball player. Maddie, any additional thoughts on Boogie Fland?
Kind of like we said about Dylan Harper, he is a little bit smaller when it comes to that combo guard position. But he's got, like you said, Alabama and Kentucky in his sights. I think he would make a great fit anywhere. One of my big things, going through these potential college players in the SEC, Alabama's getting a lot more 5-star looks as of late. And I think, that's great for the division overall, and great for Alabama in the long run. Obviously, as we go through, we're going to start to realize that more and more we're going to see less Kentucky and more even killed picks through the rest of the SEC.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to consider here, and a big reason that I think Alabama is getting these 5-star talents, or at least getting a look from them, is because they have a great recruiting staff. And out of Alabama, Fland is being recruited by Brian Hodgson, the same guy who recruited Charles Bediako, Jaden Bradley, and of course, Brandon Miller. There's a lot on his resume about coming to Alabama, and he's a great piece for Nate Oates' staff. So you're talking about somebody who can bring in a lot of talent in here. I like Fland as a fit for Auburn. He plays with a lot of the characteristics that you see fit Nate Oates' system and his scheme. That said, there is another SEC school out there in the equation, and that's Kentucky. And who may be Kentucky and Cal may be overhauling an entire blank roster come this offseason, next offseason, because you got guys like DJ Wagner, Justin Edwards, and all these other great freshmen like Aaron Bradshaw on this roster. So you're going to have a lot of places to fill, and I could see Kentucky going all out to get him. So it's just going to be a matter of who wins that race first right now. But overall, having Brian Hodgson as the guy recruiting him, it makes a lot of sense. Now, as far as its visits go, he has taken a visit to both schools, and both schools are considered warm right now. And I believe he's talking about doing an additional visit as well for them. Maddie, anything else before we move on from Boogie Fland?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like he has visited a lot of places, so whoever he goes to next is really going to have to put out all the stops, looking at Maryland, Michigan, UNC, and Indiana. So, Boogie Fland's got a lot of eyes on him. So, like you said, whatever coaches are recruiting him are going to have to come hard to make sure to secure him on their roster.
Absolutely, 100%. I mean, he's too good of a talent to pass up. And like I said, he fits really well into this Alabama system. So I think he's wanted quite a bit there. All right, let's move on to another Alabama prospect, and that's Jalil Bethry, or Betha. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. I haven't heard the commentators say his name enough yet, but Jalil Betha, he's a solid shot guard, and he's the number 4 shot guard in this class, number 19 player nationally. Alabama is the only SEC school scouts have listed for him right now on 24/7. I've seen some video
on 3, and I believe Rivals also have LSU. He did visit there, I believe it was the end of last season.
Okay, well, that's good information to know. I'm glad that, if you looked at on 3 as well. I looked at Rivals a lot, and then I would just go back and forth. And so that probably fell through the cracks. I'm glad you picked me up there,
I got you, David.
Thank you, partner. But yeah, no, I've seen video on this kid. I've read the reports. There's a lot of people out there claiming that he is the best scorer in this class. And that's some high praise, because this is a loaded class. Like, the class that we've got coming in, the class of 2023, is considered a weak class as far as recruiting goes. The class of 2024 and the class of 2025 are receiving much higher praise on who these players are going to be. And so we're talking about the guy that a lot of people think is going to be the best scorer in this class. And he's talking about going and playing basketball for a guy like Nate Oates. Again, it's a talent that I think fits really well in the Nate Oates system. He's visited Alabama already in October, but there's a lot of talk about him going to Syracuse. Also, Norm Roberts, who has gotten some serious recruits for Kansas in the past, including Grady Dick, is the man on the job for the Jayhawks, trying to do the recruiting there. I'm going to be honest, I don't think he's coming to Bama, but that's just off my intuition, but I could be wrong, and he would be a stellar fit if the Tide could pull him. You never know with NIL. I'm just saying.
Yeah, and I think it also really depends on who they end up getting. If you look at Dylan Harper, Boogie Fland, Jalil, may look at, when it comes to playing time, like you said, NIL. I feel like it's all going to depend on who's there. Sometimes you go to a party and you're like, who's there before I show up?
Yeah,
good. I feel like it's one of those situations.
Yeah, you definitely want to make sure you're showing up to the party with the right people. So if Alabama could pull either one of these guys, talent likes to follow talent. We saw that with Arkansas's recruiting class with Anthony Black coming to join Jordan Walsh and Nick Smith Jr. We saw that happen, and it's the same thing could happen for Alabama here. But let's dream here a little bit if you're an Alabama fan. If you got Boogie Fland and you got Jalil, how much fun would that backcourt be able to watch for the Tide over the next couple of years? Or the next year, I should say, because they're probably going to be one and dones.
Very true. Yeah. I mean, like you said, talent follows talent, but then again, you got to look at, is his talent going to outshine mine? Is it going to affect, a potential draft pick, especially if they're looking at one and dones? So I feel like you said, depending on who all they get, playing time is going to be a big factor there as well.
Absolutely. All right, let's move to a kid that's getting some attention from a lot of different SEC schools, including the one in his home state. He's from my neck of the woods and from a school that, we played against a lot in sports, and that's Honor Boating from Little Rock Central. He's got 3 SEC schools in his top 8 right now. Those include Missouri, Arkansas, and Auburn. There's also some talk about Mississippi State out there and a few others, but they did not make his top 8, according to Joe Tipton. Boating is the number 38 player in the country, and he is the number 12 small forward in the country. He's the number 1 player coming out of the state of Arkansas. He's been on the under 17 US team. He has a naturally strong frame with good length and athleticism. He's a very athletic guy, and he's someone definitely of interest in this class.
Yeah, you know, one of the things I love about you know, Arkansas homers here is we've got guys like Bobby Portis and like I said, Nick Smith Jr. and Devo Davis, who are all homers who absolutely love playing for the University of Arkansas. So hopefully, you know, they've got some pull here and he'll be our first big name get for the class of 2024.
Yeah, you talk about, like you said, that homer mentality. I'm gonna double check this real fast, and I'm right. All of those guys you just listed, they're all from the 501. That is Central Arkansas for you people who are outside outside Arkansas here. That is a big recruiting basketball hotbed. It's weird when you talk about 501 basketball in Little Rock, in the Pulaski County, Lone Oak, Saline County area. We've, like, per capita, ton of basketball talent comes out of there. And I want to go through the top 100s over the last 10 years and just really break down how, just as an Arkansas fan, how much talent comes out of that area, because it's tough basketball. There was a reason my high school didn't make the playoffs for a 30-year stretch. It's because the teams in Little Rock were that much better in our own conference, and they were knocking our schools out. So yeah, it's not a surprise to see another great talent like Boating come out of there. And one of the more interesting things I found about Boating is that he's among the biggest climbers that we've seen in the 2024 class since this fall. He's been moving up. It seems like every year, every time you watch him, he gets a little bit better and a little bit better. He's a talent that keeps moving up the board. Now some recruiting websites have him as a 5-star. He's still a 4-star in 24/7, but he's regarded pretty highly out there.
Yeah, I think one of the best things, or at least that I would look at as a recruiter, is I feel like that means that they're coachable. They're still developing and they're going to listen to anybody who is going to help make them better. So I feel like, as a characteristic of a potential player, that is going to be a big thing for, all the schools that are looking at him, especially those schools in the SEC with fantastic coaching staffs.
Yeah, a lot of scouts also talking about the fact that he plays really good offense, where he's got a lot of offense potential, but they're really big on him being a high-level defensive piece. Somebody who can play some seriously good defense, especially with that big frame that he has. It's pretty interesting. All right, so for Boating right now, I'm leaning that he picks Arkansas. Like I said, there's a lot of talent, a lot of influence coming out of that area. It's an area that Arkansas has a lot of good relationship with. But, I think the next school that would be up for consideration out of the SEC is Auburn. But to me, Auburn looks like they're already going to have a very loaded class of freshmen coming in next year. And then Muss has a solid track record, additionally, of keeping some of the best in-state talent coming to Arkansas, like Moses Moody. He's also from the Little Rock area. Jalen Williams, who's from your neck of the woods. Maddie from the Fort Smith area. Nick Smith Jr. came from Jacksonville, which is part of that Little Rock metropolitan area. We talked about Devo Davis and several others. The list goes on.
Isaiah Joe.
Yep. Do what?
I said Isaiah Joe.
Isaiah Joe from the Fort Smith area as well. Those are areas that have great relationships with Arkansas and a lot of the coaches out there. I'm not saying other teams are out of consideration. We've definitely seen talent coming out of Little Rock go to other places. Like Khalil Ware went to Oregon. And then, also additionally, I believe Mizzou just picked up a 3-star out of the Little Rock area also. But that being said, traditionally, a lot of the top talent in Arkansas either goes to Arkansas or they go somewhere like Kentucky or somewhere very big, and someone who's willing now in the NIL era to chip over a lot of money for that player to leave the home state there. So if it's me, look, I'm not betting big, but I'd put a crisp 5 down that, Boating is coming to Arkansas. I mean, like, not even a crumply one out of my pocket. I'm talking about a crisp one that I just got straight from the bank. I'm not willing to put my house on it, but I'll put $5 out there. That maybe I think Boating's probably headed to Arkansas, but we're going to see how that goes. He just got done with his visit to Arkansas over this weekend. He's already visited Auburn. Additionally, though, and this is one, and I'll let you take a minute on Boating if you want, Maddie. To me, Mizzou's not completely out of this question. He's really kind of like a Kobe Brown type of player. And I think what we've seen when Dennis Gates is, what he's done with talent like that to develop it further. So, I mean, don't dismiss the fact that Boating could take a trip up to Mizzou or something. And, Dennis Gates shows him, hey, this is how I developed Kobe Brown. Your game's very similar. I think I could do the same thing. So I don't say count them out, but right now I'm leaning very heavily Arkansas.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I think Arkansas is, like I said, it's a very homer school. People like to stay, in state. Just because, Arkansas has such a great reputation when it comes to fans, when it comes to, being that small, like hometown style school. And I think, like you said, big chance that he goes there. And you mentioned his visit to Arkansas this weekend. I did see a lot of pro Hogs were in town, so I feel like they may have some recruiting pull there, with bringing in some hometown talent.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what happened when Anthony Black came for a visit, too, is that Musk did not stop. I mean, he pulled in a lot of guys to come say hi for that. And I'm talking some of his players from Nevada came by and said hi also. Anytime you get Caleb Martin out there, he just made a lot of noise as an undrafted basketball player in the NBA playoffs this year. So, there's a lot of guys out there that, there's talent. And so Musk is probably wanting to bring him into Arkansas pretty quickly. All right, another top 50 prospect that Auburn and Arkansas are going to be gunning for is someone who goes by Rakes Passmore. We've seen Rakes a couple of times, so I'm just going to rock with Rakes right now. This is what Draft Room says about Passmore. Passmore is a Skywalker. He gets off the ground effortlessly, and he's a Showtime dunker. He's at his best in transition and attacking the rim and still rebounding out the rest of the game. His outside shot is coming along, but is still a work in progress. He has a thick and strong frame and a ton of bounce. Physically, he reminds me of Jason Richardson, and that is from Draft Room talking about Rakes Passmore. Maddie, your initial thoughts when you look at Rakes Passmore?
I mean, 6'5", small forward. I feel like I've said this about just about every single person. A little undersized for his position.
A little bit.
But, I mean, he's had 30 total offers, which to me is absolutely insane. So, the kid's a player from, I believe it was either Rivals or On3 again, show a 43% forecasted to Tennessee. So I was a little shocked by that because, like you said, a lot of the noise has been around Arkansas, Auburn, and Georgia for Rakes Passmore. But, I could see him going to Tennessee as well, as they have several roster spots opening up after this year, players running out of eligibility.
Yeah, he's mentioned in like almost every team you're looking at's name. He's all over the place. Now, the thing that really concerns me about him is the fact he's only 180 pounds out there playing the small forward position. They're going to have to put some meat on him, I think, without losing some of that athleticism. So it's going to be a little bit of a chore to get a small forward like this taken care of. They might move him over to a guard spot. We'll see what happens. I think that's probably where his natural build's a little closer to, but we're gonna have to see how everybody's perceiving him. Maybe he's got one more growth spurt in him before he leaves the high school ranks and goes to college. I
could see him being very much a Thiero, like Kentucky, coming in super small and then, sticking with the program, getting majorly beefed up, and then just kicking butt and taking names.
If he hangs around, because he is considered to be a potential one and done by Draft Room right now. They're thinking that he might spend a little time in college, like 2 years, or he might be a potential one and done. It's someone like Julian Phillips who ends up going in the second round. So there's a little bit different impression depending on who you ask about what the future of this kid is. But there's a lot of consideration out there. And right now he's got visits coming up for Mississippi State, Arkansas, and LSU this fall. And then Auburn is also rumored to be in the mix for him. Like I said, there's a lot. You mentioned Tennessee. Like, there's a lot in Georgia. Like, there's a lot of SEC teams out there saying, or trying to make a bid at this guy. And he's extremely talented. Don't get me wrong. But the size reminds me a little bit of Nick Smith Jr. And we saw Nick Smith Jr. get bullied a little bit on defense. It's not that Nick Smith Jr. wasn't talented. It's just that was not the strength of his game. And so, I think Passmore could be similar. We'll see how that goes.
Yep, I agree there. I think he would be a good fit anywhere. Just, like we keep saying, it's all about development when you transition from high school to college.
So the next player we're talking about is John Ball. And Maddie, you grabbed my ear while I was at work writing this. Actually, you caught it before the edit here that I put in, and people aren't aware that we just did this. But John Ball. I think you got something to tell the world on John Ball, even though it did happen with, on Monday night.
Yeah. So, had a visit this weekend with Chris Beard at Ole Miss. July 28th, and as of July 31st, has a hard commitment to the Ole Miss Rebels.
Golly, I mean, this has got to be one of the best pickups for Ole Miss in a while. 4-star recruit, the number 4 center in the country, number 7 player coming out of Georgia, and the number 29 player nationally. He's a big, big man, and if Sice is still around next year, he could be a force to. There can be a lot of rim protection going on in Ole Miss in the future.
Yeah, I mean, obviously seeing the name, my first thought is the 2 legendary balls in the NBA. So obviously this kid is going to be a force to be reckoned with.
Absolutely. I mean, he's big time, and I mean it's going to be no joke for him coming in. Chris Beard's doing wonderful work like over there at Ole Miss. Like they got themselves a future right now being developed, and I'm impressed. What can I say? I am absolutely impressed with the direction that Ole Miss is currently going, because, it could have gone bad. That's what it could have gone bad. All right. So the next player we were talking about in this class is one that's got a lot of hot talk around him, and that is Nick Cody. He is a 6'8", 200-pound player out of Carrollton, Texas. Maddie, you're not going to break the news on where he's going now, are you?
I am not. But sources say, according to On3, that the University of Houston has the most pull, but a lot of Texas schools are definitely looking at Nick Cody. We've got TCU, Texas, and LSU in the lineup with a percentage of prediction to go there. So I really think it's going to be very much a situation like boating, where it just depends on who pulls out all the stops and shows up and shows out during his visits.
Yeah, Auburn's in the chase out there also on Cody. Overall, 21 offers for this kid, and he is the number 2 player out of Texas and the number 10 power forward coming into this class. Again, this is a very deep class, so seeing anybody in the top 100, probably a good omen for your school if you're pulling someone out there. All right, so we're going to take another commercial break here, and when we come back, we're going to be talking about the Vegas Natty odds that just came out for certain SEC schools. We have 2 teams, according to Las Vegas, with the best odds to win the national championship in this conference, and one of those schools also picked up a huge transfer this late in the game. All right, we'll be right back after this break.
Let's be honest, you're here because you love sports. We love sports too. And our friends over at Row One Brand love sports as much as we do. Row One Brand sells sports wall art, sports gift watches, and vintage apparel with ornamental designs created from real game ticket stubs and vintage sports memorabilia in their collection. If you want some vintage Golden State Warriors memorabilia, they have that too. It's a sports collector's dream website for anything sports related. Go over to row1brand.com to check out their great inventory. And when you use the promo code VSP15, you'll get 15% off any item on the whole site. That's code VSP15 for 15% off any item on the site. So click on the link below and go check them out. Row Run Brand, America's best vintage sports art, sports gifts.
And as always, please go out, support our sponsors. We like cable. You know my spiel at this point. All right, so Maddie made a great point there in the commercial break to me that we actually left 2 players off our list, and I didn't realize it. But we got Cam Scott and Trent Burns. Maddie, your thoughts on those 2 guys?
Yeah, so our last 2 in the chase on the table for major SEC schools, Cam Scott, a 4-star recruit. If you count Texas, because it will be in 2024.
It will be in 2024, yes.
This kid has 8 SEC offers. He has 2 official visits on his roster so far, including Oregon and Texas. Very high on the Oregon Trail, if we want to call it that, for Cam Scott, but obviously has many more considerations and probably a few visits coming up this year.
Yeah, absolutely. And then your thoughts on Trent Burns.
And Trent Burns, a 4-star recruit, 7'3" center, who is going to be a madman down low after watching some of his highlights. From Houston, has received offers from both A&M and Mizzou. So, like I said, he's from Houston. A&M would be a good fit for him, but also Mizzou. I feel like they're always in need of a big man, so it could be a good fit there for him to get plenty of playing time.
We're talking about a school that was not particularly good at rebounding last year. I don't anticipate to be much better at rebounding this year, but we'll have our team previews later on down the road. Unless you think that Connor Vanover is going to snatch 15 boards a game. We'll see.
I'm gonna leave my mouth shut.
I'm gonna call myself cautiously optimistic on that one. But we'll see. Yeah, it makes sense that Mizzou would want to go after a big man. They kind of need one. Just one or two. But they also got Butler that they picked up in this class just outside the top 100 for the 2023 class. So that gives you the potential for two big men down low, putting yourselves in a twin tower situation, as a lot of people like to call it. So Trent Burns, if he goes to Mizzou, would be a great pickup.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, Maddie, I think that is going to wrap up our recruiting roundup, if you will.
As long as everybody can ignore my hat hair for the rest of this podcast. I should have grabbed a
ball cap like I did. Yeah, because mine's not pleasant right now. My hair is normally stuck up and everything else. It sweats under those cowboy hats. If you're not from Arkansas or Texas or a culture that wears cowboy hats every now and then, these things don't breathe. I just want you to know, if you have an authentic one, they don't breathe that well. I learned that in about 100-degree football game one time. I was wearing out and it's like, oh yeah, no, the bill made great shade underneath my head. I about died. Yeah.
I mean, you might have some shade, but you're gonna have so much sweat under there that it's not even gonna matter.
Yeah, and it did not help that I was enjoying football season, if you will. So
you're sweating out the toxins. It's okay.
Oh, sweating out all that. This story. I think I've told you this story about the Foster's Tall Boys and drinking those, first thing in the morning on the first game of football season, where it's still basically August weather outside. I was like, oh man, it's game day. Gonna watch some college game day and drink these beers. Horrible decision. At least I got food in my body, and I things were better after that. Avery made fun of me a lot for that one. Boys will be stupid every now and then. All right, we need to talk about some Las Vegas odds. It came out this week from Vegas Insider. They put together a little bit of who's who across different sports books, and to include Caesars, FanDuel, other books out there. They put those MGM. They put a bunch of different books together, and they compiled the best odds to win the national championship come April. And the number 5 team out there is the Kentucky Wildcats. A little bit of news coming out after Global Jam. And then there's another SEC team that also made the top 10, and that is Arkansas at 9th. Maddie, I'm just going to ask real fast. We see these Vegas odds. How much of this is Vegas trying to grab your money by name brands? And how much of this is teams that actually have a chance to win the national championship?
We've talked about it time and time again. You look at Kentucky, and they were very questionable leading into the summer. But after some solid pickups, some major luck from Cal, Kentucky's definitely risen in the ranks. But also, like you said, I feel like it's one of those things, like, you look at the pedigree instead of, the current class and what they're going to be doing. While, I think they definitely could be a contender with their roster and the way we saw them play in Global Jam, I don't see that there's any reason that they should be ranked higher than a few other SEC schools that we've looked at, taken note of because of, either returning players, incoming recruits, or just talent and coaching all around.
I want you to take a look at the list of the teams that come up ahead. The teams that are mentioned to have better odds than Kentucky to win are Kansas, Duke, Michigan State, and Purdue. Now, you look at those 4 schools. I mean, Kansas is a perennial team that you would expect to be up in that list, just like Kansas is. Michigan State is one of those teams that you expect to be up there quite often. Duke, obviously, one of those teams you expect to be up there. And we also know that Duke's going to be good this year. And then Purdue is also up there above them. Purdue was excellent last year. And of course, we know Zach Edey is returning for the Boilermakers this season. It makes sense, the teams that are up there, but you also look at those teams and read through the lines. A lot of those are name brands. A lot of those are those name brands that you expect to be up there. And you're kind of guessing a little bit on who Vegas wants you to pick, because this opportunity to trap a little bit of money. I think Purdue probably is the one that Vegas is favoring the most out of that 4 group, or Duke probably. There's a lot of hype around Duke this year. I don't think Kansas should have the number 1 odds. They're still good. I think they're a top 5 team in the country. Don't get me wrong, but Duke would make a lot of sense from what we've seen them put together. Kansas is very young. Or not Kansas, Kentucky is very young. So we've talked ad nauseum at this point about what we kind of have impressions, but I do think the Global Jam had a little bit of an impact on their expectations. Arkansas being 9th. Any thoughts on that?
I love it. Obviously,
Big fan.
A fan, but also, I mean, it makes sense. You look at the things that Muss has done over the years, not only with the talent level of transfers that he's brought in, but you look at Devo Davis returning. You look at, like I said, those transfers and the fantastic recruits that we're getting, and the way he's always able to build a team around the returning players, the transfers, and the new recruits. I feel like there's a very strong case for this to be Muss's year to get closer to that national championship, if not win one.
I think this roster is very capable of making a Final Four. We're going to have to know a little bit more about it, but it's probably going to be a situation where, in reality, this is going to be a Sweet 16 Elite 8 team again from Eric Musselman. I think they have the potential to make a Final Four. They could win a national championship. 9th is probably appropriate. Especially when you consider, quote unquote, the Sweet 16 of the teams that are here. You're talking about Villanova, Texas, Gonzaga, Creighton, North Carolina, Tennessee, Marquette, then Arkansas, Arizona, Houston, UConn, then Kentucky, Purdue, Michigan State, Duke, Kansas, as we mentioned earlier. That's your Sweet 16. Those are the, hopefully I counted that right and I didn't cut it off at 15 or something like that. But just in case you're curious, the team below Villanova is UCLA. So if that's 16, then there you go. But those teams are teams that you would expect to be making a Sweet 16 run at this point. And the teams that are even below them are still pretty good teams. There's a little bit of give and take. This is, to me, a combination of Vegas saying those name brands again, and Arkansas to me would be considered a Sweet 16 team on a betting line, because you would expect over the last 3 years that Sweet 16 is the expectation. And I want everyone to know that Apollo agrees. That's why he's nodding his head in the background behind Maddie there. Paulo definitely agrees. But yeah,
he's not camera shy anymore. He's ready for his time in the light.
Absolutely. But yeah, these are the teams you expect to be here on these betting lines. I don't see any shocks, really. Do I appreciate the fact that they see Arkansas with a top 10 potential? Yeah, but does it actually mathematically make sense based on Arkansas's performance and the roster they have? Yeah, kind of. They should be somewhere in that 9 to 16 range, 100%.
Yeah, I think, like you said, at this point, because we know very little about teams, we know a little bit more about Kentucky, considering the Global Jam. A few other teams that have gone and made their quote unquote foreign tours. We might know a little bit more about, but we've seen absolutely no competition yet. So, like you said, I think it's a pedigree line and a money grab for Vegas at this point in time.
Speaking of those foreign tours, let's just do a real quick flash here. I just want everybody to know that Georgia and Mississippi State are kicking some butt in Europe right now. And I believe Mississippi State won by 60 the other night. If you're curious, when they hit 18 three-pointers, absolutely insane performance from the Mississippi State Bulldogs in Portugal. Let's go back a little bit and talk about Arkansas, because there was a piece of news that came out on Arkansas, and that's Denijay Harris from Southern Miss committing to Arkansas. Now, for those of you who don't know, because we didn't have a show last week, and in hindsight being 2020, I probably should have put a little bit of a warning for those on the Spotify channel to let them know, hey, this is a preview of our College Basketball 201 episode. I just put the episode directly on there and didn't even consider. But for those who listen to Spotify, I apologize about that. But because we didn't have a show last week, we didn't mention the information that came out about Keon Minifield. Now, Minifield has been redshirted at Arkansas, no scholarship. And that situation became very interesting because it opened up another scholarship for Arkansas. And of course, immediately Harris is named pretty much reports came in that Harris is this player from Southern Miss. He did pretty darn well at Southern Miss. He's up there close to 8 points a game, regular type of player that you can expect rebounds and offense from. Maddie, your thoughts on Harris coming in, and then also the thoughts of how this has been kept pretty much under wraps, because he's been at practice, multiple sources have said, for Arkansas for a while.
Yeah, like you said, it kind of just came out of the woodworks, kind of all of a sudden. I was kind of shocked to see that Keon Minifield was redshirted. Seeing him, consistently at practice playing, I didn't figure that he would be one that Eric Musselman would, not so much to say put on the back burner, but I think this is a fantastic get for Arkansas. Kind of fills a gap that we were waiting to see who was going to take that position. So I think it is a great get. I think that, the fact that he's been practicing with the team, building some chemistry is going to be a very strong point for Musselman, especially, with those numbers coming out, makes, an even stronger point for him to say, hey, we deserve to be here and we're going to show you how.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. Like I said, Southern, it's a great pickup. It's going to be a fight, though. It's going to be an absolute fight. He is a grad transfer. So this is his last year of eligibility, and he is immediately available for Arkansas. But it's going to be a fight on how deep this Arkansas roster is for playing time. But we'll see how it goes. For Minifield, he's a younger player, and he's got time. He's probably committed to the process at Arkansas, and probably why he agreed to stay with a redshirt situation on him. Kind of seeing the future for himself, if you will. It's like, I want to be here. With the new transfer portal rules, I know I want to be here, so I'm gonna take a lap of a season and then be the number one guy or be one of the big guys at Arkansas the next coming year. It's exciting. It's really interesting stuff. All right. So we talked about Vegas odds. Maddie, how was Las Vegas?
I had a lot of fun. Made some fantastic memories. Thankfully, the filters on Zoom, you can't see the bags under my eyes as well.
Have you slept, or did you sleep when you got back to Arkansas?
I did. I slept maybe 3 to 4 hours a night because I was still on like my work schedule. So, our time, I would wake up about 5, either 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. So obviously would go downstairs, start gambling about 6, 7 o'clock and, lost all of my money that I had budgeted for the day for gambling around noon. So,
a weekday in Vegas. That's all I'm going to say. Weekdays in Vegas in the morning, at least those tables off the strip, because that's what your advice to me was, to go off the strip.
Oh, yeah.
That's anybody planning a Vegas trip and you actually want to play some blackjack, play off the strip. That was Maddie's advice, because the per hand fee is much lower than what it is on the Vegas strip. I thought that was great advice. That's fantastic.
Yeah. Especially if you're going on a weekday, because like we went Thursday through Sunday, and even on the weekends on Fremont Street, some of those older casinos, they up their rates on the weekend for minimums. So, second day we started out playing $10 a hand, roulette, blackjack, whatever. And then Saturday rolls around, you're paying 15. So
yeah, the only time I got a $10 table was at 6 a.m. in the morning on my hotel on the strip. And it was at 6 o'clock in the morning, because the afternoon it was back up to $15 a hand. And by nighttime, it was $25 a hand. And, I was staying on the strip. So I would have loved to stay at Fremont on a weekday playing $10.
I'm telling you, come with me, David. We love Fremont Street.
That's what I got to do. We got to figure out a Vegas trip to where we can go to the sports book during March Madness and do March Madness at the sports book and just chill, and then go play blackjack out after we collect our winnings. Because I'm telling you, minus some ridiculous parlays, I was only like, if I just play straight up bets, I'm doing pretty good, because like I had that Furman pick, I had all sorts of the upsets last year on my betting card. Man, it would have been a good time. But unfortunately, the day that we got there, Jay and I were just in Crazy City in the round of 32. And we got some games right, we got some games wrong. And then, of course, Jay put a lot of money on Arkansas beating UConn, and he had a bad time at that basketball game. That was a rough one for my man there. But yeah, Vegas is a good time. I do remember, like, last time we were out there, that 2-hour time difference, your normal wake-up schedule is just completely messed up. I got up at 6 and 5 every morning out there, and I'm like, this is crazy. I get up at like 8 back home to go to work. It's
I mean, staying up, I will say this trip, I did a lot better about going to bed at a decent time. So got at least like 4 hours of sleep a night.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Oh my goodness. Well,
yeah, but it was a lot of fun. made some good memories, but lost a lot of money. So I'll have to go back and redeem myself. But I did go to the Circus Sportsbook, tried to get us on the podium for their VSIN network, that they have a studio set up at Circa, which is one of the biggest sports books in Vegas. It is absolutely beautiful. I spent a lot of time watching baseball, watched one of the fights, and then watched one of the races with my friend who's a big NASCAR guy. So
that's exciting. Sounds like a good time. All right, well, that does it for us this week on the Hoops Southbound show. We will catch you guys next week with more hoops news and everything else. And don't forget to please like and subscribe to the channel for more crazy, fun content as we talk about college basketball. We also got our series like College Basketball 201 out right now. And then Freshman 15 will be starting up very shortly in September. Maddie leading us off with the Justin Edwards video. Thank you guys so much for checking us out, and we will catch you next week.
I would drive to Neptune just to love